All right, ladies and gents, welcome back. This is part 1 of 8 for the Vault of the Incarnates normal raid guide. In this video series, I'm going to be covering the tank's perspective and also going over the responsibilities for the DPS and the healers. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Eranog. Now, as a tank, if this is the first time you're going into the Vault of the Incarnates, one thing to keep in mind is that the majority of the fights in this raid is very heavy on the tank swaps. The tank swap mechanic is very heavy for all of the bosses. As simple as it might sound, it is incredibly important that you stay on top of these swaps. And this fight here is no different, so let's get started. Now, Eranog's main tank swap ability is the Burning Wound. If you're using Bigwigs or DBM, the swap will be called out. This ability does about 8.7k fire damage every 2 seconds for 14 seconds, and it does stack, so you're going to want to swap off. And of course, you want to make sure you're facing Eranog away from the raid as much as possible. Now, while the tanks are playing with Eranog, for the healers, you're going to want to look out for Incinerating Roar. This is going to do damage to everybody in the raid, so make sure you have your AoE heals ready to go. All while this is going on, you're going to have to look out for the little flame circles on the ground. So DPS and healers, you're going to want to try to avoid that along with the tanks. So a sidestep should do just fine. And during phase 1, he's also going to spawn adds. So DPS, make sure when they fixate on you to just cleave them down. I find what works best is to make sure that DPS and healers are simply behind the boss. Keep a relatively good distance so that the tanks could actually slowly walk Eranog back, so that it takes time for the adds to fixate on the DPS. When you create that little bit of space, it just makes things a little bit easier. So after the big AoE, all the fire stuff on the ground, the adds are getting burned down, and the tanks are doing their swap, you're going to go into phase 2, which is Army of the Flame. When Eranog reaches about 100 energy, he's going to jump to the middle of the map. He'll summon fire adds that'll circle the entire raid. The main tank just has to pick one of them and DPS it down as quickly as possible. Very similar to the Ner'zhul fight in Shadow Moon Burial Grounds. Now, while this is happening, some AoE is going to be happening to everybody in the raid, so healers, make sure you're keeping everybody up. It's best to stack so you can do all your AoE heals in one shot. Make sure you keep a good distance from Eranog during this process, because if you're anywhere close to him, he does an explosion once the adds reach the center. So you don't want to be caught in the middle there. Once stage 2 is done, you go back to stage 1 and you repeat the process until he's dead. All right, here's a quick TLDR. For the tanks, make sure you are tank swapping accordingly and moving the boss around to avoid all of the pools so that nobody's standing in them. Healers, make sure you're preparing for the raid-wide AoE damage. And for the DPS, make sure you're positioning yourselves accordingly so that you can cleave down the adds when they fixate. And in phase 2, make sure everybody attacks the same add and stacks together for AoE healing. And once you've completed all those tasks, you guys can collect your loot. Let me know if this video helped you guys out, and I'll see you in the next one.